Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy here, Kenneth, once again. Talking about professional wrestling, all things professional wrestling. Um, this is one I've been wanting to do for like maybe the last like couple of weeks. Um, but I'm glad I kind of waited around in doing it, as you know, there's just been new stuff to talk about in wrestling. So, purpose of this video is that this fall, starting this fall, and moving forward into the next year, wrestling is heating up. There is definitely a buzz in wrestling. There's definitely I guess you could say like a resurgence of wrestling energy, and the demand for wrestling is it's coming back. Um, I think the fans have been demanding it, and I think the market has been wanting it for quite some time. And looking at all the different wrestling companies, it's kind of like going back to the territory days. Now that's before my era, the territory days. Um, but it's definitely getting to the point now where, like, for American wrestling audiences, we're gonna have more options to watch so many different wrestling companies than ever before. More options than the Monday Night War days, Attitude Era days. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty damn cool. Um, it's kind of funny how the wrestling business as a whole, it has these seasons. It has these seasons where it's really really hot, and then it cools down for quite some time, and then it gets hot again. Going back to excuse me for a second here. Going back to um, Jim Crockett back in the late mid '70s, early '80s. Jim Crockett promotion NWA was really really hot. Um, then it kind of went in decline, bad business decisions, whatnot, and then ended up getting bought by WCW. And then you had Vince McMahon coming up through the ranks and made wrestling mainstream in the mid to late '80s. With the whole wrestling boom period, and then it kind of slowed down a little bit, I guess you could say, in the early '90s, and then things started to heat up again in the mid to late '90s when you had the Monday Night War, and wrestling was hot again, in my opinion, at its hottest at that point. And then it cooled off again once Vince killed off his competition, WCW, and then soon after ECW fell under. And the wrestling industry as a whole, despite yes having the rise of ROH, TNA had a moment, and I mean they still exist. It's Impact Wrestling, but you had other wrestling companies that sprouted their heads up and whatnot, but the wrestling industry as a whole wasn't hot. It wasn't on fire. There wasn't a resurgence. It was just WWE and like everyone else, just like out of the the frame here of this camera. Just That's just how it was, and it was like that, and it's been like that, I should say, for 18 years, nearly 2 decades, and because of that, WWE being the juggernaut that they are, being the biggest hand in the pot, having the biggest hold of the wrestling industry, kind of they've become complacent. They've become complacent. They've been repetitive in a lot of things. They haven't really done anything new or different. They haven't grown up with their fans, and that's one of the reasons why WWE is struggling so much. Is because you know for the fans that have watched it, uh, uh, even newer generations of fans who have watched it, at 9, 10 years old, by the time they're 18 and 20, WWE is still doing the same thing that they did when, you know, Jimmy and friends were watching the product at 9 and 10 years old. So to have, so WWE have been really, creatively and everything. I've made tons of videos talking about this, and millions of other podcasts as well. So WWE has just been really kind of stagnant, you know, and looking at wrestling now coming this fall, just this fall along and going into next year, it's really heating up, and I really think we're on the cusp of something changing once again in professional wrestling. Now is the time I personally feel like wrestling is is going to go back to that uptick. We've been in that the stagnant form through the WWE for the last near, like I said, 2 decades, and now we're about to get rid of the uptick again. And it's awesome to me. I think for wrestling fans. Um, Here, it's just to kind of break it down. We have WWE. Okay, regardless of whatever we think you like or dislike about WWE, WWE are always going to be the monopoly of professional wrestling. They have deep pockets. They have tons of resources. They have so many brands under the WWE umbrella. WWE is called the machine for a reason. You can hate the machine all you like. It is what it is. They may pander more to be family friendly, more drama and soap opera, and less wrestling and action and sports authentic and focused. But it is what it is. WWE is the machine. That's nothing's going to change that. You have WWE, okay, and with under the umbrella of WWE, you got Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown. When again, like I'm saying, coming this fall, Friday Night SmackDown. Um, you have NXT on Wednesday, which there have been rumblings that NXT might go live now on Wednesdays to compete against AEW. But more on that in a near future video. But you have NXT, you have NXT UK, you have 205 Live. Okay, that's all under WWE. Now you have uh, New Japan, who's still making their strides to reach out here overseas. New Japan Pro Wrestling, they've been kicking ass with the G1 Climax. It's probably one of my favorite G1 Climaxes this year, 2019, and quite a while. But they've been really great in this tournament. Um, you have Ring of Honor. Now, Ring of Honor has not been doing too well. I just saw recently for some of their shows, one in Tennessee and another one that's coming up in a couple of weeks. I don't know where. I think it's the Super Card. Ticket sales have not been great for Ring of Honor, like at all. So much so, Impact Wrestlers ticket sales have been doing better than Ring of Honor, and that's just kind of like mind blowing. But um, Ring of Honor, Ring of Honor are in a slump. They are in a slump, and I think that's due to a lot of reasons why they are. But I'm just saying, there's another option there. You have Ring of Honor Wrestling. Now you also have the upstart of a brand new company in AEW, which, for all intents and purposes, even though they have yet to start their own weekly television show, I've said plenty of times, due to their financial backing, due to their major television platform that they have, even though they have yet to debut their weekly television show, those two things automatically makes AEW the number two wrestling company in America. Whether you like it or not, it is what it is. So you have the upstart of All Elite Wrestling, another potential, not only alternative, but big wrestling company that we have not had since WCW. Um, then you have Impact Wrestling, which, and a lot of people kind of fallen off on that, and I've had my moments where Impact has turned me away as a fan. But I will give credit where credit is due. Since Don Callis and Scott D'Amore took over and became co-presidents of Impact Wrestling and taking over the booking, 2018 coming into this year, 2019, Impact is a they put on a good wrestling product. They put on a good wrestling product. They have a nice niche roster of girls and guys. They've been putting on some good wrestling shows. I'm not going to take that away from. And like I said, I've enjoyed some of their shows a lot more than sitting through Raw or SmackDown because it's easier to watch. Um, but you have Impact Wrestling, which they are looking to switch over to Access Television. There have been rumblings of them switching over to Access TV. Talks going back since to June. So we don't know what's going to happen with that, but they're looking to switch it up this coming fall to reach a new network, a new station that everyone gets. If for everyone that doesn't know, Access TV is the same station that houses New Japan Pro Wrestling on weekends. Um, then you have Major League Wrestling, MLW. MLW is making strides. MLW is on BN Sports television, so they have a TV thing. Now, I don't know how wide of an audience BN Sports reaches. I don't think I have it on my cable supplier. I probably haven't even checked. I probably should check. But even if you don't carry BN Sport, MLW is free to watch in its entirety every Monday on YouTube for like an hour. Some of the best wrestling I've seen all last year and into this year, like truly. Before AEW was a thing or blimp in anybody's mind, MLW is the wrestling show I've watched religiously, and I have no problems watching besides like NXT and stuff like that. But even Major League Wrestling, they are making moves and making strides. And I say this, they are going to stream their very first live pay-per-view here in Chicago in November 5th, I believe. They'll be streaming their first live pay-per-view on the Fight Network app. They'll be working with Fight TV. They are also partnered up with Noah, Professional Wrestling Noah, which is another Japanese wrestling based company, former home to Kenta, uh, former home to Kenta, and oh God, I can't think who else was in Pro Wrestling Noah. But point is, they've partnered up with them, and MLW is also partnered up with Impact Wrestling. But surprisingly enough, yet neither Impact or MLW have taken advantage of their partnership. I haven't seen any stars from any of their rosters like crossover, so I've yet to see that come into play. But MLW are making moves. They're making taking small victories and small wins. Even though a lot of people might not be paying attention, they are. With the partnerships with Noah Pro Wrestling and them streaming their live pay per view. Huge accomplishment for a small company. And then it just got reported yesterday. Billy Corgan. Billy Corgan, who's the owner of NWA, he's owned it for quite some time. I think so. It's been like 3 years now. Like I can't believe it's been 3 years since Billy Corgan has owned NWA. Like that just blows my mind just how fast time has gone. But NWA had recently, I don't want to say severed their ties, but they've ended their being business partners with Ring of Honor. They've been partnered up with Ring of Honor for like the last year or so, but they've ended their relations there. And Billy Corgan announced that I think this fall, NWA is going to be on television. What station, network, I don't know. He didn't mention anything about YouTube, so it's definitely going to be on TV. So for whatever station or network that's going to be airing NWA on television, I think that's pretty cool. And that just also shows again that people want wrestling. People want wrestling. The networks see it, that there is an audience for wrestling. And it really feels like wrestling is back again. It's back, or it's coming back. And like I said, I've mentioned all these other companies. There's going to be so much wrestling to watch, more than ever before. More and I'm just speaking for American audiences here. For American wrestling fans, we are on the cusp of watching or having so much wrestling. I don't think we know what to do with it. Obviously, there is no way. It's 24 hours within the day. People have jobs, lives, school, family, kids. There's no way you're going to be able to watch six wrestling companies, six, seven wrestling companies within a week. Watch every pay per view, every weekly show. But the fact that we have all these options, it's another place for talent to go. If you don't work well in WWE and their system, you can go to AEW, or you can go to MLW, or you can go to NWA, you can go to Ring of Honor, you can go to New Japan, um, or whatever the case may be. And ultimately, it's also great for the fans because we have options. If you don't like WWE, totally fine. You can just watch solely AEW. If you don't like AEW and that's not your thing, you watch Impact. There are fans that watch Impact only. They don't watch anything else but Impact. There are fans that only watch MLW and other companies. So it's really, really cool and it's really, really awesome. But the biggest thing about this, though, is that a lot of wrestling fans always say, I want an alternative. I want to watch something different. I want to this. I want to that. It's the time is coming now where wrestling fans got to put their money where their mouth is. It's time for wrestling fans to, now that we're going to get all these multiple different options, it's time to put up or shut up. You want an alternative. You want multiple different outlets, whatnot, besides WWE. 2019, fall of 2019, and moving forward into the next year, you're gonna get that. The growth of MLW, the growth of NWA, or should I say the rebuilding stages of NWA, the beginning phases of a new era with AEW, um, New Japan continuing to make their strides here in America, um, uh, uh, Impact Wrestling. Again, I will say, because a lot of people are going to shit on Impact, but I've had my moments of shitting on Impact as well, but I'm going to give credit where it's due. Impact Wrestling putting on a better product. WWE saying all these things and trying themselves to put on a better product. Um, all these other options, you have it now. You're going to get it. And it's going to be interesting to see if wrestling fans are going to actually, mean what they say what they mean. Because, at the end of the day, these wrestling companies or whatever else, they don't last and they don't thrive without us and without our support. So if you want to watch something else that's not WWE, then, support it. Support, NWA. Support the upstart of AEW. Support the rebranding of Impact Wrestling. Support, the rise of MLW, and continue to support New Japan Pro Wrestling, because they still put on a hell of a product, in my opinion. Support Ring of Honor as they're going through a kind of funky transition in their company right now. Um, I mean, really, it's time for wrestling fans to put up or shut up. Support these wrestling companies. I think it's cool. I think we are going to enter, within the next year or two, maybe 2 years. I think this will be a new era, just like we had the Monday night, we had the Jim Crockett promotion era, we had the Golden Age era, we had the Wrestling Boom era, we had the Monday Night War era, we had the Ruthless Aggression era. I think we're about to get ready to enter into another era in professional wrestling. I don't know what that will be what that will be called. It might be dubbed the wrestling era, because wrestling is kind of coming back, or the return of wrestling era. I don't know what would you call it, but I probably like to call it the wrestling era. Um, but we're going to enter into a new era for sure, and it's going to be interesting to see how many wrestling fans truly mean what they say and support these other alternatives. And in supporting these other alternatives, because there are some wrestling snobs, wrestling fans that are snobs. What I mean by that, if a wrestling company does not have the bright lights, the fancy logos, the oohs and the ahs, the smokes and the mirrors, like a heavily produced WWE television show, they're not going to support it. That's just fact. I've known so many wrestling fans, and some wrestling fans I've tried to really say, I want an alternative. I want to watch something different. I'm like, okay, here. If you're tired of WWE, here, check out MLW. It's underground, it's a little bit gritty, but it's great wrestling. I don't really like MLW. Why? It's too small. It looks like they're in a bingo hall or in a gym or whatever, or it's this or it's that or the camera is not too light. There are wrestling fans that like that, and I kind of partially blame that on WWE because for 20 years, WWE gives the facade that wrestling is all of this, lights and camera, action, glitz and glam, which, don't get me wrong, all this stuff looks nice. You're watching, on television, it it looks great. It's appealing to the eyes to see all these different, lights and cameras, such high production quality for a wrestling show. And then when you go transition from that to like something like MLW that doesn't have all of that, it's like, well, this is a complete downgrade. But that's not the case. So I that some for some wrestling fans that can be a hard thing to do because you've been so conditioned and brainwashed of what you think the ideal wrestling show should look like based off watching WWE, that you don't give other wrestling companies a chance or an opportunity that might not have that type of high quality or budget and production. But um despite those wrestling fans, it's 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 going to be interesting to see for sure. You guys let me know what you think. Do you agree, disagree with my opinions here? Do you think we're on the cusp of a new era in wrestling? Like I said, it's going to be interesting. Like I said, and I really have to say, I think a lot of this really started off with AEW. I'm not going to lie. I think AEW kind of, I don't want to say they were the catalyst, but I definitely think they were the spark that kind of kicked everyone in the ass a little bit. Um, I think when AEW first made their first announcement back in January of this year, 2019, and they kind of been slowly like, revealing their hand. Hey, we got Tony Khan, multi-billionaire. We're serious about this. Hey, we've got a major TV deal with TNT. They got put on some shows, Double or Nothing, got raving reviews from wrestling fans and journalists alike. I think they kind of put a spark in everybody to kind of up their game a bit to where WWE are looking to rebuild their infrastructure creatively by having Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff come in and help out. You've got Impact Wrestling kind of rejuvenated, and they want to get off their current network and get on a much better network. You've got MLW um, uh, uh, making small wins and small victories with new partnerships they're making, and they're having their first live stream pay per view that they'll be streaming in November. You've got New Japan continue doing what they do. Ring of Honor, like I say, Ring of Honor, that's going to be a separate video, but Ring of Honor are kind of like strumming along because despite that, I think the presence of AEW and a lot of their top talent being the elite guys, and they're going off to make AEW. I think that's really hurt them. So, despite the positive it might have influenced other people, it's kind of hurt Ring of Honor, I think, the most. Um, then you have, then like I said, just a couple of days ago, Billy Corgan announcing NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, is going to be coming back to TV after like what 30 decades. Not 30 decades, but 3 decades. It seems like it probably hasn't been 3 decades, but it's been years since NWA has been on television. Um, so I think a lot of that has a spark with AEW, kind of like making a huge claim that, hey, we want wrestling. Wrestling is coming back, and it's not just AEW, but it's MLW making strides. It's Impact Wrestling making strides. It's uh, uh, obviously New Japan are going to continue to do what they do. Ring of Honor and NWA and just all these companies evolve. Well, Evolve is in bed with WWE, but the point that I'm making is that everyone are starting to feel competition. That's the best one I'm trying to say. Competition is starting to heat up with these wrestling companies, with talent, with fans, with the fan base of these respective companies. It's going to be a fun time to be a wrestling fan again. Definitely, for sure. It's been long overdue. It's been needed, but it's going to be a fun time to be a wrestling fan again. And I can't wait to see what happens. Uh, just this fall alone, and going into 2020. You guys let me know what you think about this in the box below. Do yourself a favor, give me a like, hit that subscribe button, and leave a comment box below and tell me what you leave a comment in the box below, excuse me, about everything I talked about in this video. Do you agree? Disagree? I want to hear from you. Peace.